guys, welcome back between Mo and myself to Imola Auto. Glad to have you with us this evening. We're actually about to do a little special on 3 Lamborghinis. Now, we're lucky enough to actually have just next to me is a Hurracan, the baby, of course. And then beside that we have an Aventador SV Roadster. And finished in that beautiful pearl white is an Aventador S as well. Now, it's very rare, once again, where we find ourselves in the company of 3 different types of Lamborghini, 2 of course Aventador and 1 Hurracan. But we wanted to do Lamborghini because of course Lamborghinis are bonkers, they're ostentatious, they're conspicuous, and they are fabulous. So Lamborghini Aventador is that kind of a vehicle that always seems to get all of the attention. Now there is stuff that's possibly more technically gifted in the company that's surrounding the Aventador. But you always seem to have your eyes falling upon a Lamborghini, whether you're entering a showroom or exiting a showroom, simply because Lamborghini do the essence of supercar so well, better than most. And you can it's the sort of thing that sticks in your memory like glue, and it's the kind of thing that invokes desire within, you know? And that's the beauty of it. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just basically needs to make you feel a certain fire and a passion. And again, that's exactly what it's all about. You see an Aventador on the street, parked next to something commercial or something a bit normal, and it really stands out like absolutely nothing else. So we've got to talk a little bit about these special vehicles and what they're all about, what they're capable of, and we could probably even talk about the differences between the SV behind me and the Aventador S. For one thing I can tell you for a start is that this SV Roadster is no longer in production. Production actually stopped in 2017, so now, for you to be able to get an SV Roadster, I imagine it's not such an easy thing to get your hands on or get hold of. But we can actually now have the opportunity to have a look at some of the design and the key features and some of the lattice work, the carbon fiber, the rear diffuser, the wheels exclusively designed for the SV. But I want to talk about performance because this is where things get really scary. So SV Roadster. Roadsters generally mean more weight. It means potentially that the handling can get spoiled, the ride can get spoiled, the economy can get spoiled, the acceleration can be a bit more handicapped compared to a hardtop or a coupe. But as large and as wide as this looks, there has been so much of weight saving gone into this vehicle and so much of rethinking and re-engineering and redesigning of certain intricate parts of the bodywork and the aerodynamics. Right now, this is 1,500 kilos. 1,500 kilos is not a lot when you consider the actual stats and size of this vehicle. To put it into perspective, a family-size hatchback is about 14 to 15, sometimes even 1,600 kilograms. But the difference between the hatchback and the SV Roadster is that underneath there is a 6.5 litre V12, which is generating 750 brake horsepower, which is good for a 0 to 100 kilometer time of less than 3 seconds. This SV Roadster will do the quarter mile in about 10.5, and it will still do more than 340 kilometers as a top speed. That is absolutely incredible. Okay, so SV Roadster, that 750 brake horsepower V12 at the heart of this beautiful machine. I'm just about to give you an idea about how it sounds, but as I'm making my way towards the driver's seat, I do need to mention to you that it is of course a 4-wheel drive vehicle. It's a Haldex system, which is of course custom to that of, similar to that of the Audis and the VWs. Of course it's part of the same group nowadays, and in terms of the gearbox, that's linked, or that there is linked to the wheels via a 7-speed transmission. 7-speed single-clutch transmission in the SV. Let's have a listen to how that sounds. Now, there's no dignified way of you being able to get into the vehicle, but I'll give it a go. I'm a smaller kind of guy, so it should be okay. But once you're in, That's home. Let's start her up. So now we're looking at the Aventador S, which is a bit more relevant actually because it's the S model and the SVJ, which is actually still in production. So right now, if you go into a Lamborghini showroom or anybody that actually deals with Lambos, it's the S and the SVJ. You can no longer actually get the SV or even the original Aventador that was launched back in the day. Now, a few changes that have actually undergone with the S model just to make things a bit more, well, to improve things, of course. So you now get an upgraded or slightly upgraded suspension compared to the old SV model. You have a bigger front splitter. You also have four-wheel steering now, as well as four-wheel drive. And the gearbox is now, of course, a bit more smoother. And the way it's been calibrated, of course, makes things a bit more usable. A few details that Mo is going to show you right now about some of the design. The big change are the wheels exclusive to the S model. And then just on this side of the vehicle at the rear, you've got a redesigned rear diffuser. And the tailpipes, of course, which is again exclusively for the S model car. It's still, of course, a powerhouse. It's still generating actually 730 brake horsepower, and it's still good as the figures suggested earlier in comparison to the SV or even the original Aventador. It's still a less than 3 second to 100 kilometers vehicle. It's still in excess of 350 or 40 kilometers as the top speed. The one figure that I wanted to mention, which is astonishing, 0 to 160 kilometers an hour in 6.5 seconds. And it's become more comfortable now as well. We'll show you in a second. Have a look here. Actually, we'll close this door. Come around to the Aventador SV seating, for example. It is a racing seat. There's not much in terms of things being able to be very adjustable, or not much in terms of lumbar support and stuff like that. But of course, it's not meant for that type of thing. And of course, it was designed all in the name of weight saving and lightness. But now, going forward, in the S model, it's quilted with some really, really nice cross-stitching and some leather. And you can see straight away that it's just going to be a much more comfortable and more pleasant place to be. Let's actually have a seat inside just to confirm. So once again, here's my non-dignified part of getting into an Aventador. And I'll try and do it in a cool way. Okay, so inside the Aventador S, not much has changed. The seating has slightly. There's there's a redesigned steering wheel, of course. I do like this piano black finishing around the three-spoke section of the wheel, and the flappy paddles. Of course, I do actually like how these feel. I do prefer the blades to be much longer as compared to some vehicles that have them attached behind the spokes. It just makes things feel a bit more racy, a bit more involved, so to say. The carbon fiber along the center console, it's a really, really nice touch, but otherwise everything else here happens to be as expected from an Aventador. Now, I don't know, Mo, if you can actually see much inside, but let's just turn the lights on for a second, which have made no difference at all. That's very Italian right there. That's the kind of stuff that they don't really care or think about, because they just don't. It's all about just going faster and looking good and sounding great while you're doing it. Things like this, it doesn't matter. So we'll forget about that anyway. Hey guys, now it's time to look at the Hurracan. Now, Hurracan in Spanish actually stands for hurricane. It was named, as usual, after a fighting bull, keeping in tradition with the names that Lamborghini use for their cars. And of course, the Hurracan might be considered the baby between the Aventador and itself, of course. But when I say baby, maybe just in proportion, maybe a little bit in weight, and maybe in overall size. However, in terms of performance, it's still no slouch. Well, for example, because of its power-to-weight ratio, this 5.2 litre V10 unit, producing 602 brake horsepower, is still good for 2.5 seconds to 100 kilometers an hour. And it will still do in excess of 340. So you can get quite a few differences with the Hurracan. You can get it in a four-wheel drive, which is this particular model, the LP610. You can also get them in a rear-wheel drive with slightly less horsepower as well, which is not available for us right now, but I guess we do have the faster one here. And then of course, in terms of design, you do have a lot of options to choose from. For example, these slats above which are covering the engine, this is something that you can actually choose between the slats, of course, that are on here right now. You can have a carbon fiber version, or you can also have a glass version to actually see that unit, which is probably a bit more eye candy, so to say. In terms of proportions, it's surely no bigger than possibly an Audi TT, or maybe slightly longer, but that's about it. But it does share a lot of its components with the second generation Audi R8. For obvious reasons, because of course it's part of the VW group, and a lot of the technology is shared to try and make things, you could say, as enhanced as possible. It can also come with a magnetically controlled damping system, and then of course, unlike the Aventador, which was a single clutch transmission, there's no manual option available for the Hurracan. For the Hurracan, it's purely automatic, and it is a 7-speed dual clutch transmission, in keeping with the vehicle's technology and moving forward thinking, which is aided, or has been aided, by the VW group. With that, you've got a lot of driver comforts. You've got LED lights, you've got a really good GPS system, you've got a really advanced driver display unit, or a TFT, which is now very digitalized and in front of the driver itself to make things a bit more focused when you're on the go. And of course, you have a lovely use of Nappa leathers and other materials to make things a lot more comfortable than any of its predecessors. Let's have a look inside to see what it looks like. Okay, so inside the Hurracan, as I said, compared to the Aventador, it's a lot more user-friendly, so to say. And it does look a lot more up to date, a bit more modern as well. You can see the driver display, which is just about warming up, which will actually come on once I do a startup of the vehicle. And then of course the center console shows the, well, this is my favorite part, always will be in a Lamborghini, that little sort of jet fighter startup. And then of course, looking at the redesigned steering wheel, it is smaller in diameter as compared to its big brother, or the bigger sister, the Aventador. And of course you've got the Anima control system, which of course allows you to choose or change modes depending on the type of driving mode that you want to be in, from normal to sport to race. And of course then with the dynamic steering that has been fitted to the Hurracan, that also then adjusts itself to make sure that it fits the mode of driving style that you want. So it's all very grown up, and as I say, because it's sharing a lot of its components with the Audi R8, it might feel a little familiar in places, but ultimately it's still a very nice design. It's a lot more comfortable. Visuals are better, of course, right in front of me, as well as from the mirrors and the reviewer as well. Still can't see much out there or what's behind me because of the slats, but it does feel smaller. It is, of course, lighter, and it should be more usable as compared to the Aventador. Anyway, let's start her up. Let's see what that V10 sounds like. That was the sound of a Lamborghini V10. Now I know that a V12 is legendary, and I know that it's a thoroughbred, but you cannot knock that V10 at all for the way it sounds. It's so intoxicating, it just makes you laugh. Anyway, before we rev it up, that's the TFT in the Hurracan, and that's now effectively the infotainment system for the driver. You can sort of navigate through all sorts of menus and options in regards to vehicle settings, the rev counter, the speedometer, the satellite navigation. There's even Bluetooth and a Google Earth GPS in there as well. So it's all, yeah, cool. Let's actually rev it up. That's more exciting. So guys, that concludes our quick review on the Hurracan, the Aventador SV and the S model as well. Unfortunately no SVJ this time, but stay tuned, I'm sure we'll have it featured at some point. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. And of course, details should be popping down right now in terms of contact. If you'd like us to review something, or if you have something cool that you'd like us to see, please let us know. And until next time, take care for now. Bye.